he's been given the boot, sacked after, I think, 5 defeats in 7 games.
I'm like Kermit the Frog here with my tea.
Yeah, sipping the
That
Manchester
ain't none of my business.
What are your initial thoughts about the sacking? When you came over, you talked about that exit interview almost that he did, which I thought was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking to watch.
You got sucked in by that?
Yeah, because United, if for anything, they might be terrible on the pitch. What they do well is the storytelling and the pushing of brand. And that exit interview was very tough to watch.
You know what's in this mug, Ryan?
What?
Ole's tears.
Oh, my
Let's take a big sipperoonie here.
Okay.
Well. So salty.
So salty.
But so sweet.
Oh, my God. Yeah, and when you got the news, right, you sent me Fabrizio Romano's tweet. And you sent me the tweet. And you sent me one word after. So.
And I have to be excited to quote Cristiano Ronaldo.
100%. Did you watch the performance? What did you think about the performance? And obviously, did you see this coming?
Well, I mean, everybody saw it coming. I'm surprised that Ole managed to be so incompetent that he was sacked before the last few weeks of the season. That's not usually what the board wants to do. Apparently, it took them 5 hours in a meeting to decide to sack him.
Yep.
What are they talking about for 5 hours? We cover it in 20 minutes on this podcast every week. Guys, this could have been an email. We don't need to have this meeting. He's not good enough.
Yeah.
Look, that exit interview, he was very emotional. He loves the club.
Yeah.
But
you're cold.
Fans love the club. Everyone who pays for a season ticket in Stretford End loves the club. You love the club. Doesn't mean you should be the manager.
Yeah. I mean, holler at your boy. But
yeah, look, he's obviously a nice guy.
Yeah.
But the job's too big for him. I thought it was a bit cringy, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
what other serious football club does a emotional exit video with the guy that they've just sacked?
Yeah.
And mutual termination. Yeah, that's the wording of the contract.
Yeah.
That's what your agent's there for, to make sure that it says mutual termination.
Yeah.
Have agreed to part ways, but he's sacked. He's been sacked.
Yeah.
I'm guarantee there was a compensation payout on that one. So
a very healthy one.
Look, I'm happy to see the back of him. I don't think it necessarily changes the equation for United completely. Depends who they get in, of course. At the moment, it's Carrick, his assistant. And,
the interim to the interim.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the office assistant to the region. This is the interim to the interim.
We know how easily United legends on TV are swayed by 2 or 3 good results for a new coach. We saw it with Ole.
Yeah.
Michael Carrick just needs to win a couple of games and have a competent plan for what to do with and without the ball. And Rio Ferdinand's going to go crazy. It'll be Carrick's at the wheel. Gary Neville's going to ask him where he wants the statue built. He's embarrassing this stuff.
Yeah.
United is a big club. They've got to have higher standards. They've got to be more serious than this. And all of the storytelling and social media around Ole's exit, I found quite embarrassing. They are obsessed with social media metrics at the club, and I'm sure that all of the hate comments underneath every United loss, every full-time graphic, are all rolled into a spreadsheet and sold to an advertiser saying, look, we got 7 billion interactions for the month of October. Doesn't matter what those people are saying. United's brand is being damaged by this continuous losing and this continuous dropping of standards, and Ole leaving is one step in the right direction to alleviate that.
Look, I was part of that crew where we came back in Paris against PSG. I remember in his first season in the Champions League, and Rashford hit that penalty. I was working at a university. I wasn't sure if I should say who, but anyway. So I was working at university at the time. Was I watching highlights at my desk? Yes. Did I run around the office when it happened? Yeah, I did. Am I sorry? No. But I think what is most telling, right? I watched the game against Watford. Donny van der Beek deserves his flowers. That second half performance he put in was sublime. Not just the goal, but the way he changed the tempo, dictated the play, and it's almost, for me, fitting that he scored the last goal of Ole's era, because it was a different team in that second half. And until Harry Maguire made that mistake, got himself sent off, it looked good. And my question to you is, did he just lack the awareness to see the resources that he had to make the full use of them? Or was he just being bitter and just was like, you're not playing, and he just didn't have the goal to have those tough conversations?
It's an interesting question. I think Donny scoring the last goal of Ole's reign is like that meme, turned up my hater's funeral just to make sure he was dead. Like, the final nail in the coffin for Ole, the parting shot, is the guy that he sidelined and refused to give an opportunity in the first team. But it was clear that Donny van de Beek, whatever performance analyst they have at the club or the numbers gurus would say, this is a really good player, we should sign him. He's available at a competitive price, with 30-40 million pounds, which for a blue chip midfielder is a good price.
Great steal.
The Man United legend and Ajax sporting director Edwin van der Sar penned an open letter. I think they took up a full page of a newspaper saying, treat him well, you've got a gem. Yeah. And United have treated him like absolute trash.
Ollie took that and used it.
Wiped his ass with it. And look, Donny is clearly a player whose intelligence off the ball and the runs that he makes will improve United considerably. But it was clear that when he was signed, Ole didn't have a plan of where to fit him into the team. If you look at that Ajax side under Ten Hag, it was Frankie de Jong at number 6, and Van der Beek was actually the most advanced midfielder in a 3. So he had the freedom to be able to break into the box and play quite high up the park, and that actually took pressure off the playmaking duties of Frankie de Jong at 6, because it drew players away from him and allowed him to go 1v1 in dribbling situations in the middle of the park, and he could just beat players, and as soon as he beats one, the whole field is opened up. So Van der Beek's ability to make decoy runs and also arrive in the box late and be the free player, the spare player that defense doesn't pick up, was a transformative influence on that Ajax side that made it all the way to the Champions League semi-finals. With Bruno Fernandes in the team, if you make those runs beyond the strikers sometimes, or up to the edge of the box, into the box constantly, you're playing that high up the park, who's guarding against the counter-attack? So United clearly don't have an obvious way to incorporate both of them, and Van der Beek, unfortunately, because Fernandes is who he is as a player, Bruno's not going to suddenly play as a 6. Van der Beek is going to have to adapt, much like De Jong has had to adapt into a different role at Barcelona because Busquets is in the way. So does it change the equation completely? I'm not sure it does. United still don't have a number 6. But Van der Beek in the team, Jadon Sancho in the team, potentially with a coach who can maybe prepare some sort of combination play and some planned moves in attack. That will help. And I think Sancho's also better on the right-hand side.
And he looks great. When Van der Beek came on, I think he got a bit more service, a bit more interplay. Noticed the first half, Jadon Sancho got the ball. Everyone just stood off and expected him to do some techie moves on that was like cage ball in London or something to get out of those situations. It made no sense what was happening. I just thought that second half with Donny van der Beek and Sancho whipping that cross, for a moment there was a glimpse of what it could look like if the resources were being used appropriately.
And Jadon Sancho is an incorporative player. He's not Ronaldo circa 2006 doing step-overs and taking players on 1v1. That's not... He's better thought of as a playmaker out wide as opposed to a winger, because the traditional stylistic qualities of a winger at United, a sort of classic number 7 or whatever, is a player who beats his man and puts a cross in. And Jadon Sancho is not that player. He's a player who likes to play little quick wall passes and quick combinations. And he can dribble past somebody, but he's better at doing it in the context of a greater move where...
rather than an isolated moment.
Rather than... and on the run as well, on the move, as opposed to get the ball, stop dead, look up, see nothing, and then try and beat the player from a standing start. That's not really Sancho's game. So he's looked like a fish out of water because United haven't recognised what makes him a good player or haven't built the team to support him as he had at Dortmund, where they've always got an overlapping fullback to take a player away from him. They've always got combination play that's heavily rehearsed, and he's one of the most productive players in the world when it comes to chance creation when you have the structure around him and players he can combine with, like Van der Beek. So those two very much on the same wavelength. I think it will improve United, but then there's still a presence up front, of course, who seems to dictate everything in terms of not only playing style and attributes, but also in terms of personality and influence. Ronaldo's sort of bigger than the club now. Ronaldo is multi-time Ballon d'Or winner, biggest star in the world, biggest social media following in the world. And Manchester United is a club who's won nothing since 2013.
Yeah.
So Ronaldo, his presence, and also that of Alex Ferguson, who's still getting suit fittings at Carrington and calling Ronaldo on transfer deadline day, looms large over this club. So I still don't envy the manager who eventually takes over this permanent post.
And it's a big job, whoever takes over. Like since Sir Alex has retired, no manager has been able to create the same kind of success, that legacy. And before I touch on the manager, do you think Ronaldo is now going, should I have come back? Or should he have gone to somewhere else, like a City?
I think Ronaldo is a player who doesn't suffer regrets because his self-belief is so extreme.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a very wealthy individual as well.
Yeah.
He's someone who I think is a bit... he's one of those people who tries to block out negative energy. That seems to be his kind of personality. He's I don't listen to the haters. Yeah. There was a whole Nike ad campaign around it. Your hate makes me stronger or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't think he even listens to criticism.
Yeah.
That's part of his unshakable self-belief.
Yeah.
And that has pluses and minuses. Some players who have, I guess, more humility about their games don't try and do too much. Whereas Ronaldo is always trying something. He's always shooting from like ridiculous distances, or he's always trying to be decisive in games in every moment, which is sometimes not helpful to the team dynamic, because sometimes you just have to play a simple layoff back to the midfield and rotate it around the other side and start again. Like he's always a bit like Bruno Fernandes a little bit, trying to play killer balls, always trying to shoot. And that's born out of a belief that he can do no wrong and he is the greatest player in the world. And it also leads to him scoring amazing goals and never, I guess, admitting that the game is up. And those dramatic comebacks we're seeing in the last minute is, I guess, a consequence of that as well. So there's pluses and minuses. I'm not sure if there is a manager out there who can get away with benching him without kicking up a storm, who can get away with... maybe marginalising his role in the build-up play and just having him as, say, hanging out on one flank and waiting for the ball to come into the box. A manager who can make Ronaldo a bit part player in terms of minutes, or a bit part influence in terms of build-up, and just use his qualities at this age. He's, 38 now?
36.
So, well, he plays like he's 38. I don't know if that manager is out there, because you're going to really kick up a stink if you bench. Look at Pochettino, still linked with the job at PSG. Every time he substitutes Messi in the game, not even benches him, but substitutes him, an aging player who at the 60 or 70th minute mark can usually use a rest. Every time he takes him off, Messi blanks in, there's no handshake. The footage goes viral. Every TV show is saying... is there a rift between Pochettino and Messi? And the same thing will happen to the next United coach. It's a burden having these guys now because they're so famous. They're bigger than the clubs. They're almost bigger than the sport. They're transcendent. And that's kind of a burden now because they're both past their peak.